So, ladies and gentlemen, we are up to 770%. Legal Eagle is 770% a far left regressive activist channel. This video title is Can Cops Wear Masks and Hide Their Identity? Wait until you see the opening and the way that this is framed. I think that you need to see that first before we get into it.
Friends, when two armed men in masks and hoodies wave you. Imagine walking down the street to meet some friends when two armed men in masks and hoodies wave you down, snatch your smartphone and backpack, pull you into an unmarked black SUV, and drive off. And for the next 24 hours, no one knows where you are or who took you. What crimes did those men commit? Well, probably none if they're law enforcement officers and they have an arrest warrant or probable cause to believe you've committed a crime. But you don't know that, and if you fight back fearing for your life, you could wind up with serious additional charges. A rising number of disturbing scenes like this are playing out all over the country. Hordes of masked, plain-clothed ICE and Border Patrol agents have apprehended and disappeared civilians for allegedly violating
Apprehended and disappeared
federal
civilians. Not citizens, civilians. The manipulation is clear. Civilians.
immigration law.
If you are a criminal, you are not a civilian. If you enter into this country illegally, you are not a civilian. You are a criminal that is on the run.
Ambushed restaurants, parking lots, and private residences without identifying themselves, demonstrating legal authority, or stating any cause for arrest. And some of these officers are packing major heat. That's the loadout they brought for one guy who just finished up a shift at Walmart. Seriously, some of them are kitted out like they're going after Osama bin Laden. And
So, ladies and gentlemen, this guy and the Legal Eagle channel is dangerous. I'm not being hyperbolic. The misinformation that they're spreading is literally dangerous. These people are framing it like these guys are tacked out in order to go and just round up innocent civilians. These people are going to get ICE agents killed because of their dangerous, irresponsible rhetoric. Do you know why ICE agents wear masks? Do you know why they're kitted out the way that they do? Because the left are dangerous, insane, radical, demented, deranged, pro-pedophile, pro-criminal terrorists. I'm not being hyperbolic. You take a look at some of the riots that have gone on and what these people have done. These people are a danger. These people regularly engage in physical altercations with police. So these individuals are going into enemy territory in California where they know they're not going to get backup, surrounded by these mentally ill, evil freaks, and you expect them to what? Go in with their nice words and suggestions? They're in enemy territory. These are invaded spots. Sanctuary cities? Are you kidding me? Sanctuary from obeying the law. Sanctuary for criminals. This is insane. Oh, yeah. Nothing like a bunch of deranged psychopaths going and trying to basically commit a war crime, trying to make sure that ICE agents can't sleep in order to terrorize them, strobing lights, loud sound effects. No sleep for ICE.
It started after mass raids on June 6. Agents reported showing up in ski masks and street clothes, detaining people from work sites in predominantly Latino neighborhoods. Protesters now hitting back with megaphones, car horns, and even mariachi music. These late-night rallies stretch from Burbank to Long Beach, sometimes lasting past 3 a.m. ICE says the protests are fueled by disinformation and dangerous rhetoric from local officials.
And dangerous rhetoric from Legal Eagle. Like, I want you to think about this. The Legal Eagle channel posed the question, can cops wear masks? Okay, it's a perfectly legitimate question. And you would think that a lawyer would be the one to answer it. Can they wear masks? The buildup to that is cops are, they're black bagging people off the street and showing up to these communities, armed with tactical gear. They're depriving, like the way that this is framed is so dishonest and so dangerous. A lot of these retards don't realize that they're going off of this sort of rhetoric, and it's not true. Yes, the cops are wearing masks because they recognize that there is a danger to themselves and their families from these far left freaks, because these cities do not arrest these people. These people on the left, all of them should be rounded up and thrown in jail for the rest of their life. These people are terrorists. They're a danger. But Legal Eagle and that channel, they're trying to frame it as this is a civil rights issue. You have the right to be in the country illegally and not have ICE agents come and approach you. The way that they're framing this is so dishonest and disingenuous.
But some hotel workers say the pressure's working. At the Cambria Hotel in Burbank, staff say ICE agents checked out after just one night. Yelp reviews tanked and guests moved rooms or moved out. And while Burbank isn't a sanctuary city, it passed a resolution earlier this year limiting cooperation with federal immigration authorities.
Every one of these people should be in a cell right now. That is crazy that these people are not in a cell. Every one of these people is breaking the law. I mean, there are a number of different ordinances. You could talk about, harassing federal agents. You could talk about noise pollution. I mean, there are different things that you can get them on. Every one of these people should be in a cell. Or deported. Find out their immigration status and get them the hell out. But these people are the danger. Not ICE agents enforcing federal law. These people that are genuinely stupid, have an allegiance to another country, are trying to get in the way of federal agents doing their job, and other innocent people who are at the hotel are collateral damage. These people should be thrown in jail, lock them up, and throw away the key. But that's not the worst of it. Let's talk about the riots. You see, because this freak over here, this freak that represents the Legal Eagle name and channel, he wants to represent what's the big deal? Mostly peaceful protests as LA is burning again, as they're throwing rocks at police cars, as they're fighting with ICE agents. I mean, this is so insane to me that there are channels that exist in America. These people are lucky that I'm not president, because I would arrest every single one of them. These people are giving material support to criminal alien invaders. People who are in the country illegally, who broke our laws, who are currently breaking our laws, and people on the street that are breaking the law, that are damaging these cities. Why on earth do you not round up every single one of these people? Arrest every single one and put them in a detention facility like Alligator Alcatraz. It is insane to me that we play these games and, the rhetoric, well, the left and the right both have a valid opinion. No. I am saying that the rule of law should be respected, that these people are in the country illegally. Joe Biden and the Democrats caused a crisis, and Trump and his administration are the ones that were voted in by the will of the American people to fix it. Kamala Harris and the Democrats ran on the platform that Legal Eagle believes in. They lost in a sweeping decision. The American people want these people out. There are a few bad actors that need to go to jail. And there are a lot more people that need to go home.
ICE protests spread from city to city. ICE is preparing to deploy its special response teams to multiple Democrat-run cities, including Philadelphia.
So the president is sending teams of tactical agents to illegal immigration hotspots across the country. And one of those which has gone under the radar is the sanctuary city of Philadelphia. And while the entire state of Pennsylvania voted for a secure border in the 2024 presidential election, as you're about to see, Philadelphia did the exact opposite, which is why ICE is now on the way.
You can see things got very tense between Philadelphia police officers that were on scene and these demonstrators that were protesting against some of the actions that ICE have been doing around the country, marching and protesting in solidarity with the protests that are happening in California and Los Angeles.
Police say crowds marched to the Federal Detention Center in Center City became disorderly, blocking traffic right there in major roadways. Police say 15 people were arrested.
I think there's a lot of anger and a lot of frustration in society, and I think sooner or later people are going to fight back.
Everyone is terrified. No one wants to go outside.
I've said for 2 months, sanctuary cities, how we deal with them, we flood the zone. Send many more officers in the community to find the bad guy. If we can't find them in the community, they're going to flood the zone on work sites. So sanctuary cities going to get exactly what they don't want.
I want to give you a look there. At the moment, police took several protesters into custody, including one who was charged with aggravated assault on an officer. Police say some of them ignored orders to disperse, blocked traffic, and endangered public safety.
So these tactical units have the open borders crowd totally furious because they see these as some sort of military occupation. But what none of these people will admit is that ICE wouldn't be sending armored vehicles and troops to cities like Philadelphia if there weren't a good reason for it. And with aggressive protesters rising up here just as they have in Los Angeles and in New York, local police sure have their hands full, and they don't have the resources to control mobs of aggressive activists who will stop at nothing to shut down what they believe is the ongoing fall of our once great and free country, which these protesters fail to realize will cease from being a country the moment it ceases to have a border or enforce its laws. But sadly for Philadelphia, which is one of the few sanctuary cities in states that voted for President Trump, these activists believe that not enforcing immigration law makes America stronger, and they think freedom and liberty are totally compatible with the tens of thousands charged by Mexican cartels for smuggling untold numbers of people across the U.S. border, including.
So you get a general sense. I like this guy, Cash Jordan, great channel. But you get what we're dealing with here. This is a manipulation. It's dishonest. They're trying to frame it as that ICE agents are coming in and for no reason they're picking up U.S. citizens off the street. That has not happened even once. U.S. citizens have been arrested by ICE, but it's because they've attacked ICE agents. They've attacked ICE agents as ICE has been attempting to do their duty and do their job. But the way that freaks like this, dishonest, bad faith, bad actors who are anti-American to their core, you will never convince me that Legal Eagle or this guy, what's his name?
The street to meet some.
Spencer, the Scowl Owl, Deputy District Attorney, former special. So you were a district attorney, former judge advocate general. You. Former Special Assistant U.S. District Attorney. And you are on here making videos, I would imagine for money, just for money, that are designed to hurt other agents. So other Marine Corps agents and other Army personnel and other law enforcement, you're willing to put their life in danger to collect a paycheck. That's what I take from this. There is not one person who is sound of mind and of solid character that would take a position like this. This is dangerous, it's radical, and it's meant to incense the type of mentally ill, low information human garbage that doesn't know any better, that doesn't know any of this, that's all consumed by how they feel and emotional manipulation. The people that don't think, they just feel. I feel this is wrong. Well, it's not wrong. ICE agents are goddamn heroes. The Marines who went to back up the police in LA, they're heroes. But these people treat them like they're criminals. Like, they're the ones that are just going to round you up because people like this hate Trump. Legal Eagle hates Trump. So Trump is blackbagging people like we're an authoritarian country. These people are a danger and they should be arrested. They should absolutely be arrested. This is an incitement to violence. That's how I take it. You are trying to get ICE agents hurt. That's what I take away from this. That's what I see when I watch this content, is that you are putting a spin on this, that the ICE agents are the bad guys, not the criminal illegal aliens who broke into the country. You are framing this like ICE is blackbagging and, what did you say, disappearing civilians? So you didn't even make the correlate between legal and illegal. You just said civilian. So in your mind, an illegal criminal alien and an American citizen, they're both classified as civilians. They're both the same. So somebody who has broken the law that ICE is coming to get, you view that as an American citizen. Your morals and your ethic say that they are the same. That is insane. And you should be called out for it, and I'm the only one to do it. I'm the only one that is calling out the misinformation and disinformation from Legal Eagle. This channel is spreading dangerous rhetoric for clickbait to attract the dumbest and most perpetually online people. How do you sleep at night? How do you live with yourself? You said that you're a U.S. Marine Corps? You were in the U.S. Marine Corps? How do you sleep at night? How do you sleep knowing that you are putting law enforcement in danger by radicalizing people against them doing their job? This isn't the case of corrupt cops doing something against the law. This is law enforcement arresting illegal criminal aliens that is their job to do. I don't even know what to say. On 4th of July, of all times, this is a 4th of July video. The most anti-American, anti-troop thing I've ever seen. If I were a Marine, I would be ashamed of this guy. How could you do that to your fellow soldiers? Your fellow law enforcement officers? Like, it's unreal.
Friends, when two armed men in masks and hoodies wave you down, snatch your smartphone and backpack, pull you into an unmarked black SUV, and drive off. And for the next 24 hours, no one knows where you are or who took you.
Doesn't that sound eerily like the way that Assange tried to frame his quote-unquote detention at the airport? Oh man, they pulled me aside and they asked me questions for 2 hours. Do you support Trump? Man, I was a political prisoner. Yeah, he was detained for like 15 minutes and they asked him questions. Like basic questions. And then he was let go. He from the time he landed to the time that he left the airport, it was an hour in total. Like, these people are such liars and manipulators. It really does blow my mind. And the way that they misrepresent the law. Right now, they're trying to paint a picture that the Trump administration is lawless, that, you know, we don't like Trump. Trump is bad. Trump is an authoritarian. Legal Eagle himself, Devin, said it in another video. He's an authoritarian dictator, which is insane. Again, more insane rhetoric from Legal Eagle. That's why you're up to 770%.
What crimes did those men commit? Well, probably none if they're law enforcement officers and they have an arrest warrant or probable cause to believe you've committed a crime. But you don't know that And if you fight back fearing for your life, you could wind up with serious additional charges. A rising number of disturbing scenes like this are playing out all over the country. Hordes of masked, plain-clothed ICE and Border Patrol agents have apprehended and disappeared civilians for allegedly violating federal immigration law. They've ambushed restaurants, parking lots, and private residences without identifying themselves, demonstrating legal authority, or stating any cause for arrest. And some of these officers are packing major heat. That's the loadout they brought for one guy who just...
I didn't mention it, but I want you to listen to the music, if you can hear it. This video is unreal.
Just finished up a shift at Walmart. Seriously, some of them are kitted out like they're going after Osama bin Laden. And overwhelmingly, they're obscuring their faces. They're wearing ski masks, gaiters, balaclavas, surgical masks, and sweatshirt hoods pulled over their heads. Now, you might have heard that law enforcement officers are required to identify themselves, but it is a lot more complicated than that. Law enforcement officers, federal or local, occasionally do have good reason to conceal their identities. It can protect them or their families from being targeted by criminals. Personally, I've never seen it, but it's not unreasonable in a certain small subset of cases. But there are strong...
What do you mean you've never seen it? What do you mean you've never seen it? You've seen the left dox people all the time. You've seen the left dox people all the time. Like, listen. Let me calm down for a minute. This guy is incredibly dishonest. Let me see if I can find this.
Threats of violence against Supreme Court justices. Montgomery County, Maryland, home of Justice Brett Kavanaugh, is now cracking down on protests outside of his house. They began in May following a leaked draft opinion signaling the court was willing to overturn federal abortion protections. Tom Dempsey is live at the Supreme Court to explain what steps local law enforcement is now taking. Tom?
Hey, good morning, Mitch. Yeah, this morning, police in the county where Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh lives say they really support peaceful demonstrations. But if any further picketing or protesting and big gatherings happen outside the homes of Supreme Court justices, people could face arrests, and that's due to local laws. Look, we saw a lot of these protests and gatherings, especially after that draft opinion got leaked back in early May overturning Roe versus Wade. Those events organized by abortion rights supporters and really targeting the homes of conservative justices. NewsNation even saw some of these. I was out there, you know, we saw the signs, heard the chants when these all happened, and the crowds can really vary in size. We want to show you one of them that we covered back in early June. This is outside Brett Kavanaugh's home in Montgomery County, Maryland. The gatherings continue to be very peaceful. We will note that, but people living nearby are subject to things like hearing loud chants during the night, or maybe some bullhorns and drums being played. But similar gatherings outside the homes were also reported outside Supreme Court Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito's house. Warnings that come after the Supreme Court marshal sent a letter to the...
So for those who don't know, it is unlawful. I mean, really unlawful. Let's pull this up. Is it illegal to protest outside of a Supreme Court justice? Federal Law 18 U.S.C. prohibits picketing or parading near a courthouse or a judge's residence with the intent to influence judicial proceedings. This applies to the Supreme Court justices and could lead to arrests if protests are deemed to interfere with judicial duties. Penalties can include fines or up to 1 year in prison. That is crazy. That is absolutely crazy. That we're dealing with a group of people, and that doesn't even include the violent. You know what they did to Tucker Carlson? How you had a crazed guy with a gun try to bang down his door and kill his wife and kid when he wasn't home? Like, the left is the party of violence and terrorism and radicalism. So, I don't know why you would feign like you've never heard of somebody being targeted, especially with an issue like this, where you've got a bunch of channels like yours that are radicalizing people, that these ICE agents are basically blackbagging people. Illegally, against the law, against their right, they're blackbagging people and disappearing them. No one ever hears from them again. Your insane rhetoric is causing people to go even more insane. Because the reason that they come to a channel like Legal Eagle is to get the details of these situations. You spent over a minute and a half, trying to paint this idea that the ICE agents are the bad guys. And Trump is the bad guy. That makes you a particularly evil person in my eyes.
Wrong policy reasons for members of the public to know if they're being lawfully detained by actual officers. Just last week, 2 Democratic Minnesota lawmakers were assassinated by a man posing as a cop. A few days later, in Los Angeles, a caravan of unmarked SUVs filled with plainclothed, masked, armed men tried to enter the parking lot of Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, but were denied entrance. The Dodgers later released a statement mistakenly identifying them as ICE agents, and DHS chimed in that it was actually Border Patrol, who were only there, quote, very briefly. But some men were there for quite a bit longer, and they looked pretty menacing. So who were they? Paramilitary vigilantes? If they weren't actually part of DHS, how could anyone possibly tell? And for both the public and law enforcement suddenly thrust into these situations, life or death decisions are often made in fractions of a second. Masking up can make these arrests a lot more dangerous for everyone, including bystanders, and a heck of a lot more legally complicated. So how did we get here? Here's what it boils down to. ICE and CBP agents aren't masking up to avoid catching the new COVID variant. They're trying to conceal their identities to avoid scrutiny. They claim they need to stay anonymous for their own safety to avoid doxing and other threats. Here's Acting Director of ICE Todd Lyons explaining the rationale.
People are out there taking photos of the names, their faces, and posting them online with death threats to their family and themselves. So I'm sorry if people are offended by them wearing masks, but I'm not going to let my officers and agents go out there and put their lives on the line and their family on the line because people don't like what immigration enforcement is.
Critics.
Good. That's a great answer. That's a great answer. Yeah, I'm not going to put my officers' lives at risk so you far-left terroristic freaks, you LARPing revolutionaries, can try to destroy their lives for doing their job. Good. But here's a better solution. Here's a better solution. Put together a government agency that tracks down every person. That tracks down every person that is part of these forum groups, that's part of these online chats. They start talking about doxing ICE agents. They start talking about going after ICE agents. They start coordinating for going after ICE agents. Track them down, lock them up, and throw away the key. That's my advice. That's not free speech to go and do what these people are doing. That's not free speech. That is incitement to violence. And these people should be in jail for a very, very long time.
Critics, on the other hand, might say they're not offended, but that masking simply incentivizes lawlessness by officers who are supposed to be enforcing the law and makes it virtually impossible to hold bad apples accountable when they violate people's constitutional rights. As Trump himself put it, although he was talking about radical left protesters, what do these people have to hide? And why?
Oh, so he's trying to conflate radical far-left terrorist protesters with ICE agents doing their job and being rightfully fearful that a bunch of perpetually online, fat, degenerate, low IQ, bottom-feeding satanic freaks are going to get together with other degenerate, bottom-feeding, subhuman, satanic, degenerate freaks to try to ruin these people's lives or to hurt them for doing their job. Like, this is a very simple situation. If you're not going to arrest every single one of these people on the left who are trying to intimidate and threaten and dox these ICE agents, then these ICE agents need to be able to wear a mask.
Question mark, question mark, question mark. But beyond this, widespread wearing of masks and plain clothes makes it extremely easy to impersonate immigration officials and commit serious crimes.
Wow, that sounds like a problem that was born of your side of the political aisle, the far left, committing crimes, committing acts of terrorism, doxing people, and being some of the most putrid, pathetic, subhuman pieces of garbage that humanity has ever seen. These are the type of people that justify all of their evil and bad intentions and bad behaviors behind some kind of manufactured, ridiculous, I'm a good person sort of rhetoric. They invent this stuff to justify all the evil they do. Because these people are the worst of the worst. So yes, they have to wear masks because the people that they're going up against are evil, violent, and insane. These are the people that would firebomb Tesla facilities.
In April, a Florida woman impersonated an ICE agent so she could kidnap her ex-boyfriend's wife. And all she had to do was put on a black jacket and white face mask and flash a Halloween costume-level sheriff's office card that identified her as an ICE agent to the victim. Here's Representative Julie Johnson summarizing the problem during an exchange with DHS Secretary Kristi Noem on May 14th.
Are you aware that your materials, ICE agents, jackets, and the sorts are available on Etsy for $20? Anybody can do that, throw a mask on, and run around and terrorizing people of color without any.
So, of course, Legal Eagle picks this fat racist Karen. Of course he does. Of course, the Legal Eagle channel picks this far-left, fat racist Karen. Don't you know that you can go and buy this ICE jacket for $20 on Etsy? How the fuck is that their problem? How about this? Leftists, stop committing crimes. How about this? Pam Bondi, just so that we're even, Pam Bondi, you need to start arresting the people who are making any of the threats against ICE agents. You need to start tracking down apps like IceBlock and arresting everyone involved. You need to start doing your job to protect ICE agents. And maybe take a look at Legal Eagle. Take a look at why they are so incredibly obsessed with defending criminals and illegal aliens and the far left terrorists rather than our brave men and women in law enforcement.
Any regard for the law, without any regard, because your agency does not have proper protocols to make sure their agents are clearly identified.
So with all that in mind, what does the law actually say about officer identification?
Oh, good. We're almost 5 minutes in.
If your YouTube algorithm is as messed up as mine is, you've probably seen a video or 10 from a Know Your Rights type channel where street smart citizens film interactions with cops and destroy them with facts and logic, more or less. These videos often center on forcing officers to identify themselves.
So you're giving us the runaround. You can answer a simple question?
Well, you guys are being rude.
How about you give me your serial number, your ID number, and your badge number? Give them all to me.
Basically, just say the magic words, and officers all around the country will have no choice but to show you their badge and ID number. Sorry if this bursts your bubble, but this is a myth. There is no federal law or anything like a consistent national standard which requires all law enforcement personnel everywhere to identify themselves on command, or to even be individually identified in any particular way.
So we spent 5.5 minutes of listening to you glaze terrorists and far left activists and try to punish ICE agents and call them the bad guy and try to convolute this to get to the point to know they can hide their identity and they don't always have to respond. Bravo. Bravo. Let's go back to Cash Jordan. Maybe we need a little bit of sanity to close out this video.
Gang members and terror watch list suspects. And that brings us to the real reason these tactical teams are on the way. Most of America is cooperating with federal immigration enforcement, but a small handful of cities, they've made themselves the heart of a resistance movement that has just made them a magnet for criminals. And as we're once again seeing gangs retake apartment complexes in Colorado, while continuing their reign of human exploitation in cities like New York, the mere idea that no-go zones could exist in the US of A of all places is repulsive to most of us. And most of us aren't offended by the idea that our country has a border.
Police took several protesters into custody. Action News was out here in the area of 11th and Market when all of that was happening. In all, we're told 15 people were arrested, including one who was charged with aggravated assault on an officer.
So as you can see, Philadelphia is just a few steps removed from LA at this point. Luckily, the police here aren't having any of it, but sadly, neither are the protesters.
I think this is a very tense situation. I think there's a lot of anger and a lot of frustration in society, and I think that sooner or later, people are going to fight back. There's going to be movement, and I think, I think there's going to be a lot of big things coming, yeah.
These protesters, their goal is to fight back, which is why tactical teams are on their way to cities just like this. And the stage is set. These mysteriously well-funded activists have promised to mimic their brethren in Los Angeles and stage uprisings and never give up, fighting for the rights of illegal immigrants who've snuck into our country with the help of criminal gangs and cartels, helping them make billions off the backs of the law-abiding in this country. But as you're about to see, these tactical teams, they are more than prepared to deal with any protesters.
It's like we're a third world nation where people think it's okay to threaten the life and safety of federal law enforcement officers and their families.
So let's break this down. The move would mobilize special response teams, which are tactical units under ICE, to Chicago, Seattle, Philadelphia, the D.C. area, and New York. These teams come armed with Bearcat vehicles, essentially Humvees, which are essentially armored transports, long guns, and tactical vests. Now, they were most recently used in L.A. as those protests were beginning. Today, the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights spoke to me about their concerns of having these crews in town. Partially, they feel it only furthers and helps to escalate tensions and potentially lead to what we've been seeing in L.A.
So you have to have this militarized, well-armed force if you want to protect officers who are going into an area where these protesters think it's their right to put their hands on police and shake them up to try and get their message across. That's ridiculous. And if law enforcement has a job to do, they're going to do it, and they sure can't let lawlessness stop them. Because if that happens, places like Philadelphia will just attract more and more criminals and will turn into complete no-go zones. Think about that. These sanctuary cities, if you're a criminal in America with an immigration violation, these are your best chance at staying here for as long as possible. The local population, they're sympathetic towards your plight because they don't understand what it does to our country. They also don't care if you're a gang member hiding in plain sight or that you're here illegally, because to them, that just makes you a victim of the worst country ever, America.
Immigration status. Just take a look right behind me at this crowd. It's been growing for the last couple hours. We're right outside of the detention center here in Philadelphia. Now, things have been feeling intense for the immigrant community in our city, especially in South Philly today. Now, take a look at this video that was shared on a public Facebook page and made its rounds on social media. It shows a man being arrested by agents wearing DEA vests. This was reportedly happened on 7th and Snyder this morning around 7 a.m. The DEA said that this was an assisted arrest with the ERO. That is the Enforcement Removal Operations, which is a...
Isn't it interesting when you actually watch news clips and you actually see the whole story and you're starting to get a more complete picture? And then you go back and you watch Legal Eagle, and it's just that guy talking, and it's like curated, and it's everything from a left-wing perspective. ICE is the bad guy. The bad guys are the good guys, and the good guys are the bad guys. Trying to invert the world. Trying to tell you that up is down and down is up. Isn't it insane? Watching a channel like that and having this guy go, oh, I'm a member of the I'm a Marine Corps. Yeah, I'm a Marine Corps member. Were you dishonorably discharged? Like, what are we dealing with here? How could you possibly watch what's happening with these riots? Watch that these ICE agents are in danger and come to the conclusion that no, they're really the bad guys. The good guys are the far left agitators, the people who kill people who are MAGA, burn down cities, loot, riot, steal. These people who are arsonists, these people who burn down their own cities, these people who wave foreign flags and hate this country. No, those are really the good guys, don't you know? This is absurd.
Subsection of ICE. We have spoken with a DA representative, and we're still working on confirming the identity of that man and whether he had a warrant out for his arrest. Neighbors say this activity has left their community on edge.
So everyone protesting at this ICE facility, they really believe that multiple federal agencies are combining forces to arrest one specific person who may not have done anything wrong. They really think ICE and the DEA are out there picking people off the streets for no reason.
I wonder where they would get that impression. I wonder what YouTube channel. I'm on pins and needles.
You down. Imagine walking down the street to meet some friends when two armed men in masks and hoodies wave you down, snatch your smartphone and backpack, pull you into an unmarked black SUV, and drive off. And for the next 24 hours, no one knows where you are or who took you. What crimes did those men commit? Hordes of masked, plain-clothed ICE and Border Patrol agents have apprehended and disappeared civilians for allegedly violating federal immigration law.
I wonder where they would get that idea from.
But ask yourself, why on earth is something like this happening? Was this really just a random arrest of somebody that just so happened to be here illegally? Or were they going after one of the people listed on the ICE website who are very dangerous, very bad, and have criminal records so long and horrendous, even being around these people is a risk for you and your family? And remember, as the rest of America cooperates and helps federal law enforcement do its job, these criminals, where are they gonna go? They're gonna hide out in places where they know they're protected.
I want them to focus on the cities, because the cities are where you really have what's called sanctuary cities, and that's where the people are. I look at New York, I look at Chicago. Biden allowed 21 million people to come into our country. People from gangs, people from jails. They emptied their jails out into the U.S. Most of those people are in the cities, all blue cities, all Democrat-run cities.
Right, so it's not a secret that if you're one of the bad guys, go to a place where local laws will protect you. In sanctuary cities, if you get arrested for committing some crime as part of your gang, the local police, they won't even turn you over to ICE. And practices like these make America less safe, because these criminals, they don't just stay put, they export their crime, like the Tren de Aragua gang does to cities around New York and around Denver, Colorado. They're back in Aurora, taking over more apartments. And since Philadelphia is close to New York and also doesn't like to cooperate with ICE, it makes total sense for an increased level of law enforcement activity to start taking place here and for tactical teams to be deployed. Otherwise, you're going to have criminals escaping from one sanctuary city and hiding in another. And in a way, the entire Northeast here in America is a magnet for some of the worst criminals out there.
That deployment, the courts will sort that out, but don't have any illusions about this. I mean, the president can flood the zone with federal personnel. They may or may not be guardsmen, but there's a rather large federal government that enforces federal law. And you just had Democratic leaders, including one who said, look, the federal government just has to retreat from Los Angeles and other cities, and peace can be restored.
If that happens, we're not a country anymore. If the country gives up on certain cities, those cities have won. That's a terrible idea, but that's what the activists want. They say, oh, if ICE would just leave us alone, none of this would be happening. You can't have cities across the country that make up their own laws and do exactly what they want. And you can't have cities that help hide federal fugitives who commit crimes across the country. And here's how that works. The first time apartments in Colorado were taken over by gang members, one of these gang members, who was apparently the leader, fled and came to New York and was hiding out in an apartment for several months before getting caught. And that was several months ago. You've already got criminals who are smart enough to realize that they can bounce between sanctuary cities and evade law enforcement indefinitely.
You said he can do it. The president could go into these blue cities that called themselves sanctuary cities and took all these folks.
It's insane to me that anyone would defend this. But Legal Eagle apparently is going to take up the mantle. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for supporting my channel, allowing me to vent my frustrations, my irritations, and to give you my opinions. I think this is a despicable take from Legal Eagle. I think this channel, what it represents and what it does, is just downright diabolical. I think that they know what they're doing. And I think that it is putting actual ICE agents, I think it's putting them in danger. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for watching. I support ICE agents and what they're doing. I support our law enforcement and our military. Appreciate all the hard work you do. And just know that not all of us, in fact, most of us, are not like Legal Eagle and their channel of anti-American rhetoric. Thanks for watching. See you next time.